Record right away. Beautiful. So I'm going to turn this over to the EMK staff. This is the North Andover Middle School 8A, 8B, and 8C. This is the pilot for a virtual field trip, and I'm going to turn it over to Mr. President.
All right, thank you, Ms. McGravey, and good afternoon, senators-to-be. It's nice to see all of you. I just want to make sure that I am presenting. You can all see, are you seeing my screen? It's all of us, I think, at this point. So let me actually get to what I need to get to, which is my slideshow here. All right, is everybody seeing the Welcome Senator screen? Awesome, great. So in that case, once again, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Lou, and I work at the Edward M. Kennedy Institute for the United States Senate in Boston. It's a real pleasure to be here with you this afternoon to do a virtual version of our Today's Vote program, where we're going to be taking a look at a real idea, a real proposed constitutional amendment dealing with the Electoral College. We're going to get to that in just a second. Now, usually, if we weren't, of course, living through this coronavirus pandemic nonsense, this program would be taking place in a room like this. This is the Institute's full-scale recreation of the United States Senate chamber on our site in Boston. As you can see, we've got a couple pictures there of some programs and some events that we've had when we could, of course, safely welcome people to the building. And of course, we hope once all this pandemic stuff is over that we can welcome groups such as yours back to the Institute. Maybe some of you have been to the Institute before. If so, that's great. If not, like I said, once it's safe to do so, we hope to open our doors to everybody, including all of you, once again. Now, my understanding is that this group of senators, oh, excuse me, I'll go back there, is that this group of senators has already selected some states that they want to represent, which is great. That's awesome. If you actually wouldn't mind maybe for me, because I know I'm a little familiar with some of the states that you're representing, but maybe in the chat, if you wouldn't mind maybe shouting out your states and letting me know which states you are representing today. I just kind of want to see what's the geographic diversity that that we're dealing with here. And there we go. That's the screen I mean to have on there. And maybe it's, of course, should be one of these states. I see a few states coming in here. Alabama and Kentucky, Wyoming, Tennessee. Wow, they're flying in now. Ohio, Oregon. Awesome. So it seems like we've got quite a geographic diversity of senators here today. Senators coming from all over the country, all over the union to weigh in on an issue that impacts really all of your states. I think that's great. Now,
Mr. President, if I could just add something, I apologize to interrupt.
No, it's okay.
This was actually, we had so many of these senators so excited. They were all on the call early, which usually isn't like the way DC works. So the time was scheduled for 1:30. So I just wanted to let you know there will be some kids periodically popping in. You'll see them pop in, and they're not really late. They were supposed to be here at 1:30. I just wanted to clarify that, sir.
Oh, my apologies for jumping the gun there.
No, that was me. I started. It was all excited. I just wanted to let you know it's not a big deal.
Mr. President, may I introduce a motion since we're starting 3 minutes early?
Sure.
In order to perhaps get senators comfortable, those that are here early speaking on the microphone, would one of us, you or me, be willing to maybe go down the list? Because they're going to do a roll call later, and just get a few senators to say out loud what state they're from. Just to make sure the microphone isn't a foreign experience by the time we get to debate, or maybe we don't have time for that. It was just a thought.
I suppose I could take a couple senators if any senators want to use the hand raise function, and if I see your hand go up, I can ask you to unmute and just share what state you're representing.
I would be much obliged. Yes, thank you, Senators Jaden and Alexandra. Back to you, Mr. President.
Yeah, sure. So I'll just kind of go in order here. I see Senator Stickle. If you want to unmute yourself and just tell us what state you're representing.
I am representing Delaware.
Excellent. Thank you, Senator from Delaware. Senator Alexandra, I'm sorry, I don't want to butcher your last name. You can unmute yourself.
Mississippi.
Mississippi, great. How about Senator Prabhav? I don't want to butcher your last name either. How about you unmute?
I'm from Tennessee.
Senator from Tennessee, excellent. How about Senator Brown?
I'm from Ohio.
Senator from Ohio, welcome. Senator Barrios?
California.
Excellent. Senator Broussard?
Missouri.
Missouri. How about Senator Lee?
I'm from South Carolina.
Great. Senator Smith?
I'm from Oregon.
Senator from Oregon. Welcome, Senator Koch.
I'm from Maine, and
Senator-
it's Koch.
Oh, Koch. Sorry. Thank you for correcting me, Senator.
It's all good. Thank you.
How about Senator Diaz?
I'm representing Wyoming.
Senator from Wyoming. Excellent. I think I see a lot more hands, but I think perhaps that might suffice for now, just to make sure that everybody's microphones are working and getting a couple people comfortable. So thank you to those of you who jumped in there and shared your states. All right, let me jump back here. I just want to clarify that just as you are all kind of playing roles here today as senators, I'm also going to be playing a role of sorts. You might have also already heard my title. I'm kind of playing a dual role. I'm both playing the president of the Senate, and that person is also the vice president of the United States. As you're all probably aware, we just witnessed a transfer of power in Washington last week, and so we now have a new vice president. I'm not playing Vice President Harris. I'm just sort of playing a generic president of the Senate and vice president of the United States. My job here today is just to make sure that you've all got background information that you need for our debate, to answer maybe any questions that you have, and if it comes to it, to break any tie votes, because as president of the Senate, I am constitutionally authorized to break a tie vote. So that's enough about me, and we know where many of you are coming from here today, which is great. So let's take a quick look at our schedule, what we're going to be covering here today. So we're going to start by reviewing some background information on today's proposed legislation, which is a proposed constitutional amendment to abolish or get rid of the Electoral College. We'll then summarize the major provisions of the bill. That is, what would it do if it became law? After that, we're going to move into debate, and hopefully we get as much time as possible to hear what all of you have to say about this bill. You'll have ample time to do that. We're actually going to have two senior senators who are joining me here today, two of my colleagues, going to speak first. One's going to argue in favor of this resolution. The other's going to argue against it. And then after they're done, and they just have brief statements to make, I'm going to turn the floor over to all of you. And then after you've said everything you want to say, or if we run out of time, we're going to move to a vote. And we're going to collectively vote, do we like this resolution and want to pass it? Do we not like this resolution and want to defeat it? And then we'll just wrap it up with a very brief debrief, where I'm going to share some information with all of you on how you can take what you're learning here today and share it with your actual representatives in Washington, D.C., and tell them what you think about this issue. So before we jump into the specifics of the bill, let's first understand why it was introduced in the first place. So senators, I hope this doesn't come as a surprise to any of you, but in a typical election, the candidate who receives the most votes wins. I think we all know that. But when it comes to electing the president of the United States, the rules are a little different. In a presidential election, the winner is not decided by which candidate receives the greatest number of votes across the country, which is also known as the popular vote or national popular vote. Instead, the president is chosen by a separate group of people known as the Electoral College. Now, the Electoral College is made up of people called electors, who represent each of the 50 states plus Washington, D.C. Now, each state gets one elector for every member of Congress that they have. So that means states with larger populations get more electors because they have more members of the House of Representatives. As you can see on the map, California currently has the greatest number of electoral votes with 55. And I believe we heard from one senator from California earlier during the program. So that's your state, very important in the Electoral College. But that also means that states with smaller populations have fewer members of Congress and therefore get fewer electors. And the fewest number of electors that a state can have is 3. As you can see on that map there, 7 different states plus Washington, D.C. have 3 electors each. Take a second there, see if you can identify maybe where your state is and how many electors it has. You might probably already know this if you've chosen your state ahead of time, but if not, see if maybe it's one of the maybe upper tier states with double-digit electoral votes, or maybe one of the sort of lower tier states with maybe single-digit electoral votes. That might influence how you choose to vote here today. Now, senators, you might be wondering where these electors come from. Well, each political party in a state selects a group of people to serve as the electors if that party's candidate wins the popular vote in their state. So just to give you an example that might clarify this, Joe Biden won the popular vote in Massachusetts during the 2020 election. So therefore, the electors selected by the Democratic Party represented Massachusetts in the Electoral College. And typically, the electors chosen the electors chosen by a party are leaders or long-term and long-serving members of that party. So it's usually a ceremonial role for people who have led or been loyal members of the party for a long time. So thus, senators, to put it in a different way, when you vote for a presidential candidate on election day or before election day, you're not voting to directly elect that candidate. Instead, you're casting your vote for a political party's chosen group of electors who will cast your state's electoral votes for the presidential candidate of your choice if that candidate wins the popular vote in your state, right? Might sound a little complex and convoluted there. Now, after a state confirms the results of their popular vote, the winning party's electors meet in their state capital to officially cast their electoral votes for president and vice president. And here we have a couple examples on the slide. You can see what actual electors look like. These are electors from Maryland and West Virginia back during the 2016 election. But as you can see, they swear an oath, they cast their ballots, and those are the ballots that ultimately decide who actually becomes president. Now, in 48 states, the candidate who wins the most popular votes receives all of that state's electoral votes, no matter how close the popular vote actually was. This is known as a winner-take-all system. And there are two exceptions to this system in Maine and Nebraska. And what Maine and Nebraska do is they use what's called a congressional district system, in which they award 2 of their electoral votes to the candidate who wins the statewide popular vote, and the remaining electoral votes are awarded to the winner of the popular vote in each of those states' congressional districts. So I know we had a senator from Maine, so you're one of those states, Senator, you're representing one of those states. Maybe we have a senator from Nebraska here as well today. Now, at this point, we've been exposed to a few different ways to elect the president and vice president, right? This winner-take-all system, this congressional district system. We've also referenced the direct popular vote. So what I want to do is just pause for a moment and ask you in the chat, if you wouldn't mind, share with me your thoughts. Which of these 3 systems do you think might be best at this point? So you can either pick winner-take-all, congressional district, national popular vote, or if you're unsure at this point, you can also say unsure. That's totally fine. I just want to take a minute here and pause, see what you're all thinking at this point. So I'm seeing winner take all. I'm seeing national popular vote. Seems like senators do have opinions on this already. That's great. And they might change during the course of our program. I'm seeing a lot of split between popular vote and winner take all. I wonder if either the senators from Maine or Nebraska might try to advocate for their state's way of doing this, but it's okay if not. You can disagree with the way your state does that. All right, great. So, senators, thank you for that. Seems like we've got some opinions here already on this topic. I think that's great. Now, I just want to keep going here, senators. As you may know, there are 538 members of the Electoral College in total. And we get that number from the total number of members of Congress, which is 535, plus 3 for Washington, D.C. Now, in order to become president, a candidate needs to win at least half of the Electoral College, which is 270 votes. Now, in theory, senators, a candidate could become president by winning as few as 11 states in the Electoral College, the ones that you see highlighted in purple here. Now, this has never happened, and it would maybe prove very difficult to pull off politically, but if you were a presidential candidate and just won these 11 states, that's all you need to win in order to become president. I don't mean to minimize that by saying all you need to win. Again, this would be a difficult task, but only 11 states would be needed in order to actually become president. Now, senators, usually the candidate who wins the Electoral College ends up winning the national popular vote as well. That said, because some states have more electors than others, it is possible that a candidate can win the Electoral College but lose the national popular vote, meaning that they become president even though most Americans voted for another candidate. Now, this has only happened 4 times in American history, including twice in the past 20 years. Maybe some of you might remember this. Senators are a bit maybe young to remember this, but back in the year 2000, George W. Bush defeated Al Gore by 5 electoral votes in 2000, despite losing the popular vote by over 500,000 votes. And then more recently, let's see here if this comes up. There we go. President Trump defeated Hillary Clinton by 77 electoral votes in 2016, despite losing the popular vote by over 2.8 million votes. So that was a much wider margin than back in 2000, but the result was the same. The candidate who won the Electoral College became president. Now, the 2000 and 2016 elections have caused some people to revisit the Electoral College and question whether or not we should keep it or get rid of it. Some, including members of the Senate, believe that it should be abolished and that the president should be elected by direct popular vote. So today, we're going to be looking at a proposed constitutional amendment that would abolish the Electoral College and replace it with a direct popular vote for president and vice president of the United States. This was also known in the previous session of Congress as Senate Joint Resolution 17, but you don't need to worry about that right now. Now, I just also want to mention, Senators, because this is a joint resolution seeking to change the Constitution, that amending the Constitution is a very difficult process. In order for a constitutional amendment to go into effect, it must first be approved by both houses of Congress, the House of Representatives and the Senate, by a 2/3 majority vote. Most ordinary pieces of legislation only require a simple majority, 51 votes, but constitutional amendments have a higher threshold of 2/3 of senators. Now, if Congress approves, the amendment must then also be ratified by at least 3/4 of the nation's state legislatures, which is 38 in total, to be added to the Constitution. And this has only happened 27 times since the Constitution was adopted in 1789. And most recently, it hasn't happened since the 1990s. So it's been a long time since we've had a new amendment, and it's a very difficult process. So Senators, now that I've gotten that process out of the way, I also just want to very quickly summarize, again, what this resolution would do, just to make sure we're all on the same page. So just one more time here. This proposed amendment, and if you want to call it Senate Joint Resolution 17, that's fine too, it would abolish the Electoral College and replace it with a direct popular vote for president and vice president of the United States. In other words, the candidate who received the most votes nationwide among the American people would be elected president.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Beg your pardon. I'd just like to direct your attention to a question by Mr. McGravey, by Senator McGravey over here. We're at the any questions part, actually, anyway.
Yes.
But I just, you see in the chat, Mr. McGravey is asking, can it also be put to a vote by the states? I'm assuming Mr. McGravey is referring to ratifying an amendment?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Oh, yes, there is. Yes, there is an alternate method for amending the Constitution, one that is in the Constitution itself, but has never been done before, and that would be calling a constitutional convention. And that's when I believe, and if one of my colleagues knows for sure, please feel free to confirm or correct me, but I believe that requires 3/4, or again, 38 state legislatures to vote to convene a constitutional convention in which the Constitution, basically a meeting of the states, in which really any changes or amendments to the Constitution could be proposed. So that is the other way that amendments can be added to the Constitution, by bypassing Congress and just doing it themselves. But again, that's never successfully been done in the history of the United States. Every
Mr.
amendment.
President?
Yes.
Sorry, it's on application of 2/3 of the state legislatures.
Thank you. Yeah.
Just a heads up.
So it's easy to forget because again, it's
almost never
been done
used. Yeah.
before. But again, 2/3 of states, if they choose to convene a constitutional convention, that convention can then be used to really add any amendments that are approved in that convention. But that's if they want to bypass Congress. But all of the 27 amendments that have been added thus far have been added through that other process that I detailed there, by first going through Congress and then going to the states. So thank you for the question. I was happy to clarify that.
Right. But
also, because this slide is up here, I want to pause for a moment and just open it up for any other questions. If any of our senators have any questions so far about the topics and areas I've covered, I'm happy to pause for just a moment here and allow you to do that. Again, you can use the hand raise function if you want to ask it verbally, or if you want to ask it in the chat, you can do it there instead. And obviously, it's also possible that senators are feeling pretty good and don't really have any questions. If that's the case, I'll move on in just a moment.
I don't want to mispronounce the name because I know we mispronounced it before, but is it Senator Koch has a question? Why is the name?
Perhaps ask me about his state's preferred method of doing this. That's a very good question, Senator. Why does Maine and Nebraska use the congressional district system? Well, that's because it's up to each state to decide for themselves how they allot their electoral votes. And as we saw by that map, most states have just chosen to allot all of their electoral votes to whoever wins the popular vote in their state. But because we have this system of what's called federalism, where the states have some freedom to conduct certain business their own way, Maine and Nebraska have chosen to allot their electoral votes in this way. Maybe they think it's more fair. Instead of giving all of your votes to a particular candidate, even if the margin in the popular vote is just maybe a few hundred votes, maybe they think it's a bit more fair to go by congressional districts, so that if a candidate does win the popular vote in those districts, which are smaller segments of the state, then they should still get part of that state's electoral vote. So it could be a matter of fairness, potentially, is what those states might think. But it is up to them, ultimately, to decide how they want to do that.
Mr. President,
so thank you, Senator, for asking that question.
Mr. President, and might I add, just in comparison to that, I think if we passed this amendment to the Constitution, a national popular vote, we would abolish the freedom of the states to figure out how to distribute electors, because the electors would no longer exist. It would just be a national popular vote, and the states individually wouldn't be consulted. So we're just saying we have a couple of options before us, right? States could opt to amend and do what Maine and Nebraska do. California could do it tomorrow, I suppose, if they had a vote for it, right? Or if they amended their constitution. But with a national popular vote, it just wouldn't be up to the states.
Yeah, and I see another question here from Senator Barrios. How would the congressional district method work for a bigger state if it was put into place? Would it be a little different? I don't expect so, Senator. If say California, right, would be a perfect example, because it has 53 of those congressional districts plus 2 senators. So if it chose to do things the way that Maine and Nebraska do, if they followed Nebraska and Maine's lead, then it would work the same way, and that whoever won those individual districts would get 1 electoral vote per congressional district they won, and then whoever won the statewide popular vote in, say, California would maybe get their 2 votes off the bat. So unless a state chose to tweak it and make it specific to them in some way, if they chose to do it the way Maine and Nebraska does, then it would probably work the same way. Yeah. Any other questions before we move on? Because we're about to jump into debate, so I just want to make sure that we answer any questions before we hear from you what your statements are. So I see, when was the last time the U.S. amended the U.S. Constitution? What was the issue? Very good question. So that was the 27th Amendment, and I'm going to give it a vague timeline here. I don't remember the precise year. I want to say
1992?
It was sometime in the earlier mid-90s, yeah, and it had to do with congressional compensation, actually. And I believe the amendment says that if Congress approves basically a pay raise for it, that pay raise cannot go into effect until the next Congress convenes. So basically, a sitting Congress cannot vote to give itself a pay raise and receive that pay raise in the same session. And I believe that one was actually part of the original sort of constitutional convention, or was maybe supposed to be part of the Bill of Rights or some of the early amendments, because it was voted on back then and then was just largely forgotten until the 1990s. It's an odd story, I think, the story of the 27th Amendment. But that's the subject that it deals with. It deals with congressional compensation. And it seems like my colleague Nate said, yes, it was the early 90s, 1992. And I see Senator Gaffney is pointing out that not only does Maine allot their electoral votes a little differently, but they also use a different voting process, which is called ranked choice voting. That is correct. And I don't want to necessarily get into the details of ranked choice voting just yet. Maybe if we have a little time at the end, I'd be happy to explain that, because that doesn't necessarily impact the Electoral College directly. But that is a good point to point out, Senator, that Maine also does their elections a little differently as well. All right, so Senators, in that case, if you do have questions, continue to add them to the chat, and either my colleague Nate or Amy will be happy to answer them there. But now what I want to do is I do want to turn over the floor to a couple of my colleagues, a couple senior senators who are joining us this afternoon. One is going to argue in favor of keeping the Electoral College. One is going to argue in favor of getting rid of the Electoral College. So you're going to hear 2 sides of this debate here, in favor of the Electoral College and against the Electoral College. And listen carefully to what these senators have to say. They might influence what you think about this issue. They may change your mind, or you may want to respond to some of the points that they make a little later. So I'm going to turn the floor over now to the senator from Hawaii. Senator, when you're ready, you may begin.
Thank you, Mr. President. The person who wins the most votes in a presidential election should win the presidency, and all votes should count equally. It's as simple as that. The Electoral College is a ticking time bomb planted at the very foundations of our democracy. Tens of millions of Americans throughout the country know full well that because of the Electoral College, their votes for the President of the United States mean almost nothing. The winner-take-all system adopted by the vast majority of states effectively erases the impact of a person's vote if that vote isn't cast for the winner of that state. Moreover, the Electoral College is unfair because it gives voters in small states more power than voters in large states. For example, California gets 1 Electoral College vote for every 700,000 residents, while Wyoming gets the same vote for less than every 200,000 residents. There is no good reason why Wyoming should have that much more electoral power than California, but because of the Electoral College, it does. Twice so far in the 21st century, the country has struggled under a president who did not win the most votes. Both of these presidents did great harm to our country. They weakened our faith in the electoral process. They reshaped our democracy, or our government, into something that looks less and less like a democracy. In 2020, the winner of the election was also, thankfully, the winner of the national popular vote. However, even then, the need to count electoral votes damaged the political health of our nation. If we had determined the winner of the 2020 election by the national popular vote, we would have declared the outcome on election night. The nation could have gone to bed confident that our system was functioning. Instead, we had to wait days for an agreed upon result. In that small span of time, rumors, lies, and conspiracy theories flooded the country, misleading millions of Americans into believing that the results would be false. Even after Joe Biden was rightfully declared the winner, dishonest attempts to portray the election as stolen raised fears that the result might be reversed, not by the American people, but by the Supreme Court or a few corrupt state legislatures. The Electoral College only really made sense in the early days of the country when travel and communication across long distances was so much harder. Today, the Electoral College has simply become a way for political parties to grab and hold on to power without winning the support of most of the country. If we spend the rest of the 21st century with the Electoral College in place, we could conceivably have several more presidents whom the majority of the people did not choose. Eventually, there would be no more reason to call ourselves a democracy. I urge the Senate to vote aye on this resolution, replace the Electoral College, and establish a national popular vote. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the floor.
Thank you to the senator from Maine. Now let's take a quick look and summarize the argument that we just heard. So senator from Hawaii, not the senator from Maine. So the senator from Hawaii argued that the Electoral College unfairly inflates the value of voters in small states over voters in large states, using a couple examples of Wyoming and California to illustrate that. She also argued that the Electoral College may potentially lead some presidential campaigns to focus on just a few states and could also lead to some confusion over the results, as we saw in the year or just last year in 2020. And finally, that the winner-take-all system of awarding Electoral College votes virtually erases tens of millions of votes around the country. So that was the senator from Hawaii, and now we're going to hear from a senator arguing in favor of the Electoral College, defending the Electoral College. You're not going to be able to see him, but you will be able to hear him. The chair recognizes the senator from Iowa.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you. Senators, I understand that the Electoral College can sometimes seem clumsy, overly complicated, or unjust, but replacing it with a national popular vote for a country of this size could cause worse problems still. Like it or not, this country is a union of governing states with different laws, economies, climates, cultures, and customs. Some of these states have large populations, some relatively small. When it comes to political power, how do we make sure that no one state or no small collection of states dominates the country? The Electoral College forces presidential candidates to consider parts of the country that they might otherwise ignore. If a candidate had to win the nation's popular vote, it's possible that candidate could win by focusing mostly on just big liberal cities like Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, and Boston. But the political needs and interests of voters in big cities may be very, very different than those of voters in less populated rural areas. Under a national popular vote, those voters might get stuck with a president who didn't feel that he or she had to think about their needs at all. With the Electoral College, presidential candidates are at least forced to moderate and compromise on their political positions in order to win voters they might not otherwise win. Also, depending on how many candidates make it to the general election, it's perfectly possible under a national popular vote for someone to win the popular vote while still winning less than a majority of the voters. Senators, let me remind the chamber that under the Constitution with the Electoral College, it's not enough to win the most electors. A candidate has to win a majority of electors, 270 or more. That is not what we're putting into this amendment of the Constitution. We just say replace with a national popular vote. What if the two major parties got weaker and we had 3 or 4 or 5 parties running for president? If that happened, things could get really tense. Even if a new president had won more votes than any other candidate, that president might still have been supported by far less than half the voters. What if someone in a crowded group of candidates only wins the White House with, say, 30% of the vote? If someone wins the presidency that way, it could leave the country more divided than ever. Finally, in response to what my colleague, the senator from Hawaii, said about knowing the results of the election on election night, yes, that would have happened this year when Biden won by a large margin. But what if a national popular vote were very, very, very close? So close that candidates demanded a recount. In the year 2000, we had to recount votes in Florida counties, and it became a terribly complicated political battle that went on for weeks, and we were only counting 4 counties. What if we had to conduct a recount for the whole nation? The Electoral College isn't perfect, senators, but it's a system that has proven it can adapt to our changing circumstances. Perhaps less states should use the winner-take-all method. I know some senators said in the chat that they were amenable or open to the congressional district method that Maine and Nebraska use. It is, after all, under the current Constitution, up to our states how to choose their electors. But a national popular vote could be a catastrophe that leaves us more divided than ever. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the floor.
All right, thank you to the senator from Iowa. Now let's take a look at the senator's argument as well, or a summary of it. So the senator from Iowa referenced that abolishing the Electoral College would mean that the voices and interests of millions of rural Americans would be drowned out potentially by those living in cities, and that candidates would choose to focus solely on campaigning in cities rather than across the whole country. He also suggested that that abolishing the Electoral College might lead to greater partisanship in presidential politics and campaigns, especially if a candidate in a national popular vote election were to win with a very small plurality of the votes. And that finally, a national popular vote for president could result in an administrative nightmare if a national recount was called for or even required. So, all right, senators. Now it is your turn at long last to weigh in on the Electoral College. If you were in the actual Senate chamber, like these senators that you see here on the slide, you'd be probably standing at one of your desks with a podium, a speech that you and your staff had worked on with a little maybe lapel microphone there. Or if you were in our chamber as well, you'd be able to sit at a desk like this and deliver a statement from it. But of course, we're going to be having and conducting our debate virtually here today. So you could just sort of pretend as though you're in the chamber like one of these senators if you want. But this is your chance to share your statements of support, opposition, maybe just in reaction to this whole debate and this idea. It's totally fine if you're still trying to figure out your position and just want to share what your thoughts are at the moment. You could also ask any questions if there still are any, and I'll do my best to try to answer them as well. And of course, there are a couple different ways that you can participate in the chat, in the discussion. You can either make use of the chat, and I'll try to read statements there as they come in. I do tend to prioritize, however, if senators are feeling brave enough to raise their hand or use the hand raise function and deliver their statement verbally. And I tend to prioritize that, but I'll also try to get to the chat if I can. So with that said, I'm just going to toss up the arguments from the senators from Hawaii and Iowa again, in case any of you want to reference or challenge those during your statements. You're more than welcome to do that. But at this point, the floor is now open. Again, if you want to use the hand raise function to make a statement, you can. If you want to use the chat, you can. I'm looking forward to hearing what all of you have to say. All right, I'm going to go in the order that the hands are coming up, and I'll try to get through as many of those as I can. We'll start with Senator Alexandra. You may unmute and share your thoughts. Senator Alexandra, you there?
Mr. President, it's Senator Mealy. Last name is Mealy. It's Alexandra Mealy, so that might be why.
Oh, my apologies.
I'm
Senator Mealy, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, go right ahead.
Okay, so my computer was lagging. I am pro of getting rid of the Electoral College. The Electoral College basically shuts out the votes of minorities in states that are highly pro of a certain party. Say Massachusetts. We have, in this election, we were the only state that had every single county was liberal, and people that aren't liberal, say like independent, that are Republican, their votes were basically shut out because Massachusetts is very liberal and their votes can get shut out very easily. Just say another state like Missouri, that's a highly Republican state. There is same thing. If there's like liberals there, they're more likely to get their votes to get shut out and their votes to be overridden by other votes. And Senator from Iowa said that that the Electoral College makes candidates focus on like certain spots other than large cities. My argument to that would be is that there in some states there are, like we saw at the Capitol a few weeks ago, there were some very violent people that if a certain candidate visited that state, they could get like harassed or assaulted or something.
Yeah. Thank you, Senator. Can you just remind me what state you're representing today?
Mississippi.
Excellent. How about a round of applause, whether you're on mute or not? Certainly show Senator Mealy some support. Thank you for your statement, Senator. Echoing some of the arguments that we heard from the senator from Hawaii, but also pointing out that winner-take-all system disenfranchises a lot of Americans in a way. Obviously, they still have the right to vote and they can vote, but their vote just basically kind of gets ignored in the winner-take-all system. Thank you, Senator. How about we go now to Senator Jogini Pali? If you want to unmute yourself, go right ahead.
So first of all, I just want to add that, like, only twice the Electoral College contrasted with the popular vote, and that every other time it was like complementing the popular vote, I guess. And if just to make everything clear, I'm pro Electoral College. So if we didn't have the Electoral College, then small states like Rhode Island and things like that, they wouldn't have as much of a say in the whole election as, let's say, California and Texas and places like that that have such a huge population. And pretty much those like big states and highly populated states, they will dominate the election. So it won't really be fair to all the small states to have like no say in the election and not be able to voice their opinion, pretty much. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Senator. I believe it was from Tennessee. How about a round of applause to the senator from Tennessee for arguing and defending the Electoral College in the way that it defends smaller states and their participation in national elections for president. Tennessee, of course, somewhere in the middle, certainly not a small state. It's also not one of the bigger states, but somewhere in the middle there. So I appreciate the senator from Tennessee looking out for some of those smaller states as well. All right, let's go to Senator, I think it was, Senator, you corrected me earlier. Was it Koch?
Yes.
Go right ahead.
I'm pro get rid of the Electoral College because in the time that the Electoral College has overridden the popular vote and like the winning candidate didn't get the popular vote, it has made it so the majority of the country has not gotten their choice. And so the majority of the country has been unhappy with the election results. That's all I got.
Okay, thank you. Senator from Maine, I believe. Round of applause to the senator from Maine. So let's keep this rolling here. I see a lot of hands, so I want to try to get through as many of these as we can. Let's go to Senator Lyra Surratt. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, but you are
Nope, you did it perfectly. You did it perfectly. Many people know me as Lyra Surratt. I am the senator of Idaho, and I believe that allowing the popular vote will give many people in the United States a lot more of a voice than they used to have. I doubt it would drown out their voices in a lot of the states because it actually will rise it, because the only way it would drown it is that if the states in either Republican or Democrat that usually dominate those states in the Electoral College will have an equal vote as the rest of the states, rather than them just owning the state and the rest of the people in the opposite party that aren't dominating that state have a less of a vote. Therefore, I believe, as the senator of Idaho, that we should allow the public vote, popular vote, to be allowed.
All right, thank you, Senator from Idaho. And coming from a senator whose state has about just 4 Electoral College votes, so one of those states that maybe benefits from the Electoral College, arguing actually that it might be actually best for the whole country if we were to abandon it and go with the national popular vote. Thank you, Senator, for that statement. Let's go now to Senator Jaden Stickle. If you want to unmute, feel free to share your thoughts.
Hello, I am Senator Jaden Stickle. I am from Delaware, and I am not a fan of the Electoral College existence. For one, it's saying that its removal will drown out I can't speak today. It will drown out some people's voices in the whole of the United States and the people. Well, the Electoral College is exactly that. The popular vote isn't even really used except for reference for the Electoral College. So, I mean, if you're pro the Electoral College, then why do you keep the popular vote around? Also, abolishing it will sure, it's pretty rare. It only happened twice it's only happened twice in 20 years. However, those 2 times still had presidents that were there for multiple years. So while it only happens once in a blue moon, in that time, it won't be very fun.
All right, thank you to the senator from Delaware, pointing out that even though perhaps these non-majority presidents happen very rarely, of course, they're at least around for 4 years, and the consequences for some people or for the whole country could be great either way, even if it only happens rarely. When it does happen, it could still have some really profound consequences. Thank you, Senator from Delaware. Let's move on now to Senator Sophie Broussard. If you want to unmute yourself, go right ahead.
Hi, I'm the senator of Missouri, and I think I'm pro for abolishing the Electoral College. And I think that with the Electoral College, a lot of people don't want to vote because they feel that their voice won't be heard as much, because with the winner-take-all system, if you're like whoever you vote for doesn't win, your vote is pretty much useless. But with the popular vote, it like gives people more, it makes them feel like they actually have a voice. So I think that will probably encourage a lot more people to vote, and that'll be good.
All right, excellent. Thank you to the senator from Missouri. Round of applause to the senator pointing out and arguing that perhaps switching to a national popular vote would potentially increase voter participation and turnout. Thank you, Senator. Let's go now to Senator Christina Jamieson. Feel free to unmute yourself.
I'm representing Georgia, and I am pro getting rid of the Electoral College because I believe that in a democracy, each person's voice should have a say in it. And say that you're a Democrat in a very red state, most likely your say in the government and who you vote for will be belittled in it all.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Senator, for your statement as well. Let's keep the round of applauses going, even if we can't hear them. I think seeing them is probably very welcome, very senatorial. Let's move on now to Senator Elizabeth. I'm going to say Hawes. My apologies, Senator, if that's incorrect, but you can unmute.
Yeah, it's correct. I'm representing Alabama, and I think we should get rid of the Electoral College, because if we are a democracy, that pretty much means that everyone and we all have a say in everything. And if we're only counting each state's vote and like who the majority of the state voted for, I don't really think that's literally like just not counting everyone's vote technically, because you're just taking the majority of the vote instead of every single person who actually voted, and then taking the majority of who actually won instead of just like each state's is like specific like few votes that they have, instead of just like keeping everyone's vote. Everyone gets a vote, and everyone's vote actually counts towards the official choosing of who gets to be our next president and stuff. So yeah.
All right, thank you, Senator from Alabama, pointing out that if the United States wants to live up to its ideals as a democracy, that those votes should, for president, should count more equally among all of its citizens, sort of speaking to the principle of one person, one vote. So thank you, Senator, for your statement there. We'll keep going on next to Senator Brooke Odeski. Feel free to unmute yourself.
Hello, I am Senator Odeski from Arkansas. So I am pro the Electoral College because I think that the Electoral College blocks out other people's votes and they are not being heard, whereas very small states are getting more of a vote and low states are not. So people who are voting are not really getting their vote in, because with the Electoral College, they're not really getting a say in what's going and who's going to be the new president. So that's what I think.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you, Senator Odeski, for sharing your thoughts as well. Round of applause to Senator Odeski. Thank you. We'll keep it going now to Senator Reese McGinnis. My apologies, Senator, if that's wrong, but you can unmute.
You actually said it correct, which was kind of surprising.
Well, thank you.
So I'm the senator for Illinois, and I believe we should get rid of the Electoral College, because with the Electoral College, a lot of Americans, their voice isn't really heard. And I feel like it'd be a lot more fair if we did acknowledge everyone's preference for who the president is, because it makes everyone feel like they do. They live with their government that works. That like does a really good job with making sure everybody has their voices heard and stuff. Also, for the electoral colleges, hypothetically, a state could almost everyone could vote for one party, but as long as like even like just 3 people vote for the other party, that state, it's almost like their votes weren't heard. So it's like, if you get what I'm saying, kind of, it's like as long as the voters for the electoral college vote for what they want, they could be making entire states angry with their choices.
So thank you, Senator. I hear you kind of picking up what some other senators have mentioned about the sort of fairness or unfairness of the Electoral College and how it kind of erases the votes of many people throughout every state. If the candidate you happen to vote for didn't win, it's almost as though you didn't vote at all. So I'm seeing that kind of develop as a theme here in an argument among several senators. Let's move on now to our next senator. I believe that is Senator Aidan McSweeney. So Senator, when you're ready, go ahead and unmute.
So I am for keeping the Electoral College, because if that were gone, rural areas would not be represented whatsoever. They'd be gone. It would not matter. Candidates would go to the cities, and yeah, like I said, the rural areas would be completely and utterly just ignored. They could raise taxes on farmers, anything. And the people in the rural areas are the ones keeping the country alive and not failing. They have food, they have animals, everything. And of course, the people in the cities are important too, but I think it's important to represent everyone. I think it's a representative democracy. People are represented by the electoral votes in their states. It's easier to manage. And let's just say this year we saw people trying to overthrow the election results with little to no evidence at all. Let's just say there was evidence and the election results were actually, in some separate election, were actually fraudulent. It's a really excellent safety net to have the representatives be able to say, no, this is evidently fraudulent and these aren't the votes. Obviously, this year that was not the case, but it could be, and the democracy would just be taken over.
And Senator, if you don't mind my asking, what state are you representing? You might have said. I might have missed.
I'm representing Virginia.
Senator from Virginia, so a rural state. Yes, certainly there is a lot of farming that goes on in Virginia. Thank you to Senator from Virginia. Round of applause for their defense of the Electoral College and how it defends rural states. That's something else that I've heard across a few different senators who are defending the Electoral College. We'll move on to our next senator, Senator Maya Matsaranis. If you want to unmute, feel free to go ahead.
Hi, you actually got my last name right. So.
Wow, I'm doing very well today. That helps.
I'm representing Rhode Island, and I am pro popular vote. Even though my state has only is a swing state and it has 4 electoral college votes, I think both systems have its pros and cons. And even though smaller states wouldn't get as much attention, what really cuts it for me is having states have a voice and every single person having a voice.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Senator. Pointing out a very nuanced distinction here between who gets valued in these two different systems that we're debating here. In the Electoral College, it seems like we're really valuing sort of states as entities and their votes as entities. And then with the popular vote, we're valuing individual citizens as sort of the source of that election integrity and legitimacy. So that's a very good point there, Senator, for you to call out. Let's move on now to Senator Mohammed Mered. If you want to unmute yourself, go ahead.
Mr. President, it appears Senator Mered has entered it in the chat. Would you like to read it there, or would you like me to?
Oh, if you have it in front of you, then if the senator doesn't mind.
You can read it, Nate. That'd be great.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Senator Mered. So this is what the Senator Mered has written. And because their mic isn't working properly, which we totally understand, my camera isn't working. Senator Mered says, I am the Senator of New Jersey. I believe this nation is called the United States, not the United People, for a reason. The electoral vote stops tyranny of the majority, with states with large populations already have oversized influence on the United States making decisions. The Electoral College has existed for over 200 years, and it's worked for us so far, making the United States the most powerful country in the world. This is my statement. So it sounds like the Senator Mered and I agree that this is the best system that we're really going to have in an imperfect world. That this is the United States, not the United People. We can't expect all people to be united. Sorry, now I'm ad-libbing because I was so impressed with the statement. I defer back to the Senator to the presiding officer.
Yes, thank you, Senator Moret, for your statement, pointing out how some larger states do have more influence in the national government than others. Just to illustrate that with a brief example, California, for instance, has 53 members in the House of Representatives out of 435. It's the single largest delegation in the House of Representatives by quite a bit, and it's pretty powerful as a result. So there are ways beyond the Electoral College, perhaps, that those large states have a great influence in the national government, and they find that the Electoral College is a way to balance that out. Thank you, Senator. Let's move on to Senator McKenna. Feel free to unmute yourself.
Hello, I'm the Senator of Nebraska, and I think we should get rid of the Electoral College because it doesn't let all groups of people and different people express their voice or express what they think, and sometimes it can blind what issues we can see in communities, and we might miss total points that we didn't know that existed.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Senator from Nebraska, one of the other two states who use that congressional district system to allot their electoral votes. But the senator is willing to abandon the Electoral College because it may cause the president or other lawmakers to miss some really important issues that that some members of states or communities have if maybe they're part of that segment of the state whose candidate didn't win. And again, remember, in the winner-take-all system, it's almost like you didn't vote at all if your candidate doesn't win. So it's a good point there, Senator. Let's move on now to Senator Rivers. Kira Rivers, feel free to unmute yourself.
Hi, I am Senator Rivers of Minnesota, and I am pro-abolishing the Electoral College. I think that the problem with the Electoral College is it gives more weight to the voters in small states than those in more populous ones. Every state gets a minimum of 3 electoral votes, but however, each state's total allotment is based on its representation in the Senate and the House. And if you take Washington D.C. for example, more people live in Washington D.C. than in Wyoming, the least populous state, but they both get 3 electoral votes, and it just doesn't really work, I guess, that's what I'm trying to say. Mm-hmm. And also, I just think that if you never have to appeal the electorate, it's because you've successfully suppressed some large part of it.
All right, thank you, Senator from Minnesota, for your statement in opposition to the Electoral College, pointing out that perhaps because we've heard the opposite, so it's an interesting debate here between whether or not the Electoral College, whether it benefits big states or little states. So we've heard senators argue on either side of it. Perhaps you want to think about that as we get closer to our vote. We've got about a little less than 10 minutes left in our debate. I'm going to try to get through as many of the hand raises that I see. Hopefully we'll be able to get to all the ones that I see right now before the time is up. Let's move on to Senator Mercy Rule. Feel free to unmute yourself.
Hi, I'm a senator from Massachusetts, and I am pro-abolishing the Electoral College because although the Electoral College, it could be argued that it protects small states, most of the presidential candidates will want to focus on the bigger states with large amounts of Electoral College votes like California or Texas, rather than the smaller states like Wyoming or, as Senator Rivers said, DC, because they feel that it may not help them win their election.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Senator from Massachusetts, for your statement. I believe that was against the Electoral College because of the way it kind of forces certain candidates to focus on some states to the exclusion of others. Very good. So let's keep rolling here. Senator Abigail Fernandez, feel free to unmute yourself.
Hi, my state is Arizona, and I am pro-abolishing the Electoral College. I say this because it's with the Electoral College, it's what's the point of having a popular vote if it's only going to somewhat persuade the Senate to vote whatever either the 2 candidates, and it's really just their idea, not the people of the state.
All right, thank you, Senator Fernandez. How about a visual round of applause there? Sorry that I didn't get those for the other senators before, but for you as well. We'll keep growing with Senator Ian Lee. Feel free to unmute yourself.
Hello, I am Senator Lee from Louisiana, and today I will be talking about my opinion on the Electoral College. I am in favor of abolishing the Electoral College. The people who are against abolishing the Electoral College are usually cite that rural communities and states with lesser populations will be less focused on by presidential candidates than states with larger populations and cities. This is already happening because states with larger populations have more electoral votes, and thus presidential candidates are still currently focusing on them more rather than the rural communities of the Midwest, or maybe even rural communities within those larger states. Currently, it is also more fair for the people to vote as a whole than rather electors voting the president, because there is still, again, it is possible to win the presidency without all of the popular vote. And this might cause an outrage in the people as, well, less than 50% voted for the president that won, but 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 where was I? Oh, so it might cause an outrage because the president who won the candidacy, the candidate who won the presidency, won without. All right, I can't think.
No, that's okay, Senator. I think you got your points across there about, maybe the Electoral College doesn't actually protect rural states and voters the way that defenders of the Electoral College think, because candidates don't spend a lot of time maybe in those states anyway, and don't choose to visit them. And that, there of course is a large segment of the American electorate, that is the voting population, who does get upset, on those rare occasions where a president wins the Electoral College, but not the popular vote. And that might be another reason why we should get rid of it. But thank you, Senator, for your thoughts there. How about we move on to Senator Danon Martin? Feel free to unmute yourself.
Okay, so I'm from Michigan. And if the Electoral College were worth keeping in the first place, it wouldn't have failed. And it also came about because the wealthier people in power wanted to keep like the less wealthy people that weren't in power away from the power, because they thought that they wouldn't be as educated. And like, it's wrong that an idea that is so classist is such a major part of our democracy.
All right, thank you. Was that all, Senator Martin? Sorry, I didn't want to cut you off.
Yeah.
Okay, round of applause to Senator Martin, Senator from Michigan there. Senator, I don't know if you were necessarily referring to the origins of the Electoral College, but if I may, just for a moment, you are, I think, sort of onto something there, that the founders, the men who wrote the Constitution and established the Electoral College, were incredibly hesitant about allowing sort of the masses of America to vote directly for the President of the United States. Perhaps that was for class-based reasons. There might have been other reasons as well, but perhaps that's carried on since. So thank you for bringing up that topic. All right, I see we're going to try to get through 4 more senators here in the time we have. So let's do Senator Polanski, Max Polanski. Feel free to unmute yourself.
I think I'm senator of Montana, and I think we should keep the Electoral College, because if it was a close race and the other candidate wanted to recount the votes, it would take way too long, and it would take even longer to make sure that we assign the right president.
All right, thank you to the senator from Montana. Round of applause. Repeating the argument from the senator from Iowa that it would probably take quite a long time and a lot of resources to try to do a nationwide recount. Would we be able to do that in the time that we have between Election Day and when the Electoral College meets, which is usually in mid-December? Is 6 weeks enough to possibly conduct a nationwide recount? Something to consider. Let's move on to Senator Harper Barrios. Feel free to unmute yourself.
I'm the representative from California, and I feel that politicians already
aims their campaigns at only a few states, focusing more on swing states, and that with a popular vote, they'd be forced to focus more on many states. I also feel that the popular vote would make sure everybody's vote counts equally.
All right, thank you to the senator from California. And in fact, senator from California is one of those states where candidates typically don't campaign because it's a fairly safe Democratic state, and pointing out that most presidential candidates focus on swing states. And we've heard from a few senators from those swing states, like the senator from Michigan a moment ago. Let's move on now to Senator Victoria Smith.
Hi, I'm the senator from Oregon, and I think it's pretty unfair that when the nation votes for one candidate, the Electoral College votes for the other one. I think getting rid of the Electoral College will also convince more people to vote, because I know that a lot of people this year didn't vote because they were torn on the decision, and they didn't think that their vote was going to be heard. Thank you.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Senator Smith, for your statement. I saw that we had another senator sneak in, so we're going to do Senator Driscoll and then Senator Monago, and then that'll be it. So we got 2 more statements before our vote. Senator Driscoll, you can go first. Feel free to unmute.
I'm representing Kentucky, and I just want to say, Senators, the Electoral College lumps all people in certain areas together. It creates divisions. States are not working against each other. What reason have we to believe that the borders of a state represent the borders of ideals? Indeed, those often forgotten, even the most liberal or conservative states, often award all their electoral votes to a candidate who only won their state by a very small margin, usually 49 to 51% or even less. This negates the votes of a huge number of voters when taken across the entire country. In addition, it means that ideas are more spread out than we often recognize. It is true that with a national popular vote, voters in small states would have less say than they do now. But which is worse, for voters to have equal say in elections, or for many voters to have absolutely none? The votes of those who do not vote for the top candidate in their state are effectively negated. It is true that only twice the national popular vote has not aligned with the electoral votes. But with a national popular vote, that would never happen. However, it is true that a national popular vote could cause more division within the country if more candidates were voted for, say a 15, 25, 29, 31 split. Only 31% of the country would be in favor of the chosen candidate. For this reason, I think perhaps it might be prudent to consider requiring the candidate to win by a certain margin. Thank you.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Senator Driscoll there, seeing both sides of this debate here and proposing maybe some type of third way forward with maybe if it came to the national popular vote, still setting a threshold for a candidate to hit first in order to actually win the presidency. And finally, the last statement we're going to take here verbally is Senator Monago. Feel free to unmute yourself and you have the floor.
Hi, I'm Senator Manigo from Florida. I think we should keep the Electoral College votes because I feel like it's less chaotic, whereas if we have a mistake with the popular vote, it'll be harder to fix it and it'll take a lot more time. So I think that we should stick with the Electoral College because that's what we've done for up to 200 years now, and I think it's the best thing to do.
All right, thank you, Senator Manigo. My apologies for mispronouncing your name there. Pointing out that we've had the Electoral College for pretty much the entirety of our history as a republic, and we should continue to do it because we know how it works. Perhaps switching to a national popular vote might be a bit chaotic and be a little difficult to do, particularly again if those votes are close. Wow, senators, I think we have. I think it's fair to say that we have filled our congressional record, at least, with some very excellent statements. So give yourselves one more round of applause here for yourself if you spoke, for everybody else who spoke there. Excellent job, senators. Now, however, it is time for us to vote. So typically in the Senate, as you can see here, votes in the chamber would take place sort of in the middle there. You see a bunch of senators congregating. They're talking to some of their staff members and they're casting their votes with the legislative clerk. We're going to be voting a little different. We're going to be doing, obviously, a virtual vote here today, and we're going to make use of the chat. So with that said, in the chat, here's what I'd like for you to do. If you want to abolish the Electoral College, type the word yay that you see there and enter that in the chat. If you want to keep
Mr. President,
Yes.
I'm terribly sorry to interrupt. I was checking with Mr. McGravey. Does Mr. McGravey still want to try to do a roll call vote?
I would love a roll call, but I don't know. Is that okay with the president?
Oh yes, we can do that. I do have the whole list of names here. My apologies.
That would be
but
really
I,
that would really be appreciated. If you just want to stick to the senators on the list, that would be so wonderful. Great way to end.
I can make sure I record the votes as they're said, Mr. President. I've got a pad and paper right here.
Okay, great. So in this case, here's how it's going to work. I'm going to just read the list of senators here from my list of participants. When you hear your name, just unmute. And again, if you want to vote to abolish the Electoral College, say the word yay. If you want to vote to keep the Electoral College, say the word nay. And my colleague Nate will keep track of the votes. Remember, we need a 2/3 majority in order for this resolution to pass. So it can't just be a simple 51%. We're going to need at least 67%, and we'll do that math after we've done that.
Mr. President, I just wanted to mention that Senator Miele, M-I-E-L-E, had to go, but he is voting yay. He made that known in the chat before he left. So, Nate, if you could record that, that would be great.
Excellent. We have that yay recorded.
And yes, Senator Smith, did you want to add something before we started?
Yeah, I agree with Senator Hoffman, I'm pretty sure. He commented use the poll function. I'm not sure. It's the triangle, square, circle icon and the left right-hand corner.
Yeah, I think we're going to do the roll call vote because I think it really would be official. And as senators, you can speak up. So I think we were going to try to do the roll call. That's what we usually do when we go to the EMK.
Senator Rivers, were you trying to get in a vote in before you leave?
I do. I have a vote for someone who had to leave, Senator Odeski from
Excellent.
Arkansas. She votes to abolish the Electoral College. She's
That
one.
vote is recorded. Thank you, Senator Rivers.
Thank you.
All right, so that's 2 votes for senators in absentia. Typically, that's not allowed in the Senate, but we'll definitely count them here today. And yes, Mr. McGravey is right, is if we were in the Institute, this is how typically we would wrap up our program by doing a sort of voice roll call vote. So I'll try to get through it as quickly as I can, and I appreciate you all participating in it. And again, if I mispronounce any names, my apologies. So how about we start with Senator Abigail Fernandez?
Yay.
Yay from Senator Fernandez. Senator Aidan McSweeney.
Nay.
Nay. Senator Alessandra, I mispronounced it the first time. Menego?
Nay.
Nay. Thank you. Senator Brooke Goldman?
Yay.
Yay. Senator Caroline Diaz?
Nay.
Nay. Senator Carolyn LaPierre?
Oh, sorry, I'm a teacher. I didn't expect to be called. Nay.
Okay, nay. Or we could maybe we'll hold that one off maybe just for now if we just want to count the senators,
Perfect.
student senators for now.
Sure.
Sorry about that. Senator Christina Jameson.
Yay.
Yay. Senator Connor Hoffman.
Yay.
Yay. Senator Danon Martin.
Yay.
Yay. Senator Elizabeth Howes.
Yay.
Yay. Senator Finn Lyra Surratt.
Yay.
Yay. Senator Emmett LaRosa. I think I might have seen Senator LaRosa had maybe accidentally left the meeting and came back in. We're voting on the final idea here, whether to keep or abolish the Electoral College, Senator LaRosa. Do you have a final vote on that? All right, maybe we can come back to Senator LaRosa in a moment.
Oh,
okay.
yay.
Vote in the chat. Thank you. So we have a yay from Senator LaRosa. Thank you, and apologies there. Next, let's move on to Senator Finn Ryan.
Yay.
Yay. Senator Gabriella Locke.
Nay.
Nay. Senator Grace Koch.
Yay.
Yay. Senator Harper Barrios.
Yay.
Yay. Senator Ann Lee.
Yay.
Yay. Senator Jaden Stickle. Senator Stickle, we got you there for your vote, or you can toss it in the chat if your mic's giving you trouble.
I believe in his speech he was yay. I don't want to speak for him, but I do remember him speaking yay when he was in his speech.
Yes,
Okay.
I remember yay as well.
If that's the recollection, then we can put that down for now. And if they chime in to confirm or correct, we'll make the adjustment. Senator Jillian DeRosier.
Yay.
Yay. Senator Janelle Lee.
Yay.
Yay. Senator Julia Kelly.
Nay.
Nay. Senator Kathleen Driscoll.
Yay.
Yay. Senator Kiera Rivers.
Yay.
Yay. Senator Christina Rapici.
Yay.
Yay. Senator Lisa Chen. Senator Shen, you there?
Sorry, I'm not a senator. Just
Oh,
to be
okay.
clear.
Sorry, staff member. My apologies.
Thank you.
Senator Max Polonsky.
Yay.
Yay. Senator Maya Matsuranis.
Yay.
Yay. Senator Mercy Rule.
Yay.
Yay. Senator Mohammed Mored. I know you're having trouble with your nay. Okay, we got nay in the chat from Senator Mored. Senator Prabhab Gajini Pali.
Nay.
Nay. Senator Reese McGinnis.
Yay.
Yay. Senator Rep Christina. Oh no, that's I believe that's or Senator Rep Mikuchi.
So she's a guest. She's
Yes, I thought so.
She's a guest. She's just checking it out. She's just checking it out. Thank you.
Totally yay.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative. Senator Robert Brown.
Nay.
Nay. Senator Sean, my apologies, Senator Sean L. I don't want to butcher that last name.
It's fine. Yay.
Yay. Thank you, Senator. My apologies again. Senator Sebastian Valentin.
I would have to say nay.
Nay from Senator Valentin. Thank you. Senator Sohan McKenna.
Yay.
Yay. Senator Sophie Broussard.
Yay.
Yay. Senator Susan Gaffney.
Abstain. I'm a teacher.
Okay. Thank you. Senator Timothy Perrone.
Yay.
Yay. Senator Victoria Smith.
I changed my mind. Nay.
Oh, did I get you earlier?
No, you didn't.
Okay. Then we'll count you as nay. Are there any senators whose names I didn't get to or that I accidentally skipped? Okay, in that case, while my colleague Nate is doing the calculations there, senators, what I'd like to do very briefly is show you a website that you can use if you want to reach out to your actual representatives and tell them what you think about this issue. So I have it up here on the screen. It's called myreps.datamade.us, and we can certainly share this information with all of you after, so don't worry about memorizing anything. But what you could do here at this website, you see there's this address bar, and you could type in your address. So for instance, I'll put in the address of your school. And if I were to put in the address of your school, right, you could put in your address, of course. It will tell you your representatives at various levels of government. So you could do your town government. It seems like they don't have any right now. It doesn't mean you don't have any, but perhaps this website isn't quite complete yet. But we still have your county representative, we have your state representatives, and then we have the federal representatives. And so what I want to draw your attention to, because we focus on the Senate here at the Institute, are your U.S. senators. You see we have Ed Markey and Elizabeth Warren here. And so these are the senators from Massachusetts. And if you want to contact them, there's a couple different ways you could do that. There's this little contact button, which if you click, it'll show you the phone number for their office, which you could call and either maybe speak to a staff member or leave a voicemail. Or if you see this little globe icon, that will bring you to the website of that senator or that representative if they have one. And usually, at least when you get to the national level, senators, they've got, in fact, they've got tabs specifically dedicated to contacting them. So you could do that. You could click share your opinion. And there's usually a form. You could pick what topic you want to do and submit your thoughts to Senator Markey there. if you wanted. So I wanted to just, and again, we could share that link and information with your teachers after, but I just wanted to show you that in case you did want to get in touch with your senators on this. So I want to check in with my colleague Nate to see if we've got a result here.
Yes, we do, Mr. President. And I'd like to remind the Senate that under our rules here today, 2/3 of those present will decide whether we pass this through the Constitution. Just for the purpose of this exercise, I'm not counting my vote or my colleague from Hawaii's vote. I'm counting all the students. And so the votes in favor of abolishing the Electoral College were 28. The votes in opposition of abolishing it, the votes to keep it, that is, were 10. So that is a total of 38 votes. And when you divide 28 by 38 and then multiply it by 100, you see that 73.68% of the Senate has voted to abolish the Electoral College, which means that is, in this case, over 2/3.
All right. Well, in that case, senators,
congratulations.
congratulations. Feel free to give yourselves a round of applause. You did it. It's quite, like I said, quite a high threshold to pass a constitutional amendment, and you certainly did clear it, but with a few percentage points to spare. Now, of course, as I mentioned closer to the top, just because you cleared this very high hurdle in the Senate doesn't mean that we're automatically going to have now a 28th Amendment to the Constitution. Our friends in the House of Representatives would also need to pass this resolution by a 2/3 majority. And even then, it would have to go to the states, and 38 different states would have to vote through their state legislatures, that is through their state governments as well, to adopt this and ratify this proposed constitutional amendment. But you are part of this story as well, and so your passing it is significant. So senators, I want to thank you once again for your participation, for the excellent statements, for your work here today. That is our session here in terms of the Institute. So I'm going to kind of virtually gavel us out and turn you back over to your teachers. But thank you once again on behalf of the Institute. You guys were awesome. Oh, thank you.
Thank you, EMK. Thank you, Miss Gaffney, Miss LaPierre, and I couldn't be more pleased with how wonderful this went. The way it was facilitated, of course, all our amazing senators that I'm looking here at, you all did such an amazing job. We are recording this, and the reason why we're recording this is we really, I think the program, I'm guessing, is sold to all of you wonderful people, but we want to sell it to the rest of your fellow classmates. So this is going to be a recording, and Miss LaPierre, Miss Gaffney and I are probably going to show this recording to your fellow classmates and show them exactly how awesome you all were. This is a pilot. This is a work in progress. It's going on 246 now. You were all so great. I don't know if Miss Gaffney and Miss LaPierre wanted to add some remarks before we say see you later.
Just say thank you to everybody. The arguments were really inspiring, and I loved hearing all the different perspectives, and it was just great to see so many of you participate. Truly a top-notch job, and congratulations to all.
I'll just echo what Mrs. Gaffney said. Absolutely. It was seen so many people have something to say, which, as most of you know, during our classes does not always happen. So great job, everyone, for stepping up and having an opinion and sharing it. You really did a good job today.
Yeah, I want to echo what Miss LaPierre just said. I wish every Google Meet was like this, because I think it would be a lot different. Not that they're not all, they're not all bad, but this was very, very great. And with that said, I'm sure Miss LaPierre, Miss Gaffney, and I will be following up with all of you, maybe with an email or a Google form for feedback. And at this point, you guys have had such a long day, going from 7:45 in the morning till now. We applaud you for this. And thank you all so much, and we will see you later. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you, senators.
Bye, guys.
Well done.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
This was fun.
Tim, you didn't say a word.
I was going to, but I was lagging the whole time.
I had to laugh so hard, but this kid, it's the only one who ever talks.
It kept right now.
It's okay.
Right now.
I'm
Right now
Team
you're
Blue.
on like 3 frames per second. I was worried because it kept freezing and like kicking me out and everything.
Not a worry. I'm just teasing you. I will see you tomorrow. I think we have a lot of Frozens.
Yeah, I think we have
Or
a lot
Friday.
of
Friday. Yeah.
Friday, yes, Tim, of course. Friday. Bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Thank you
Bye.
all so much. Yeah, I think the rest of the people are frozen.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're frozen.
Yeah, yeah. So, what did you think?
I'm just waiting to see them go.
Yeah, I know. I think Jaden and Harper and Miss Driscoll are all. Yeah, there we go. See you later, Harper. Bye, Jaden, if you're still on. Bye, Jaden.
You can remove him.
I will.
I've totally done that to kids. There we go.
Beautiful. Now we can talk.
Was
let me stop recording. Let me stop recording. Sorry. I'm gonna stop recording and then I can